Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin our evening tonight by hearing first from the president of the Ag and HES Alumni Association. Would you please welcome Whitney Stith?
Thanks, Jeff. Greetings on behalf of the College and Ag, Food and Environment Alumni Association. Looks like we're all in good company here tonight and some very distinguished people that goes right along with our Alumni Association. So thanks to all of you guys that attended, your families. Thanks for making a difference to them. Thanks for making a difference to this university. And thanks for making a difference to this college. And tonight's about you. So thanks for coming.
Of course, we can't begin the evening at all by hearing first of all from the Dean and Director of the UK College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, Dr. Nancy Cox. Nancy?
Thanks, Jeff. Welcome, everyone. This is the second attempt we've had, and it looks like it's going to stay and be successful, but it did snow today at the middle of the day, so we're happy to have you all here tonight. It is such an honor to represent and serve this college, and there's really no greater honor than on an evening like this, where we recognize so many distinguished leaders who chose our college for their education and went on to impact the world in so many ways. We welcome our inductees and their families, and we are celebrating tonight the diverse ways in which they have impacted the world. You'll hear more about them all later, but we have Robert Hall, an animal scientist who created a global business. Dr. Kemp, an animal scientist who rose to the top of his field in research and education. Barbara Rice, with a dietetics background, who literally fuels the space program. Forget about the rocket fuel, it's really what the astronauts eat, I'm pretty sure. Bonnie Tanner, from family sciences background, who reached the top levels of the United States Department of Agriculture and brought her leadership skills back to Kentucky and impacted Kentucky agriculture and Kentucky women in so many ways. Myra Tobin, home economics background, who went on to become a pioneer for women at the top levels of Wall Street businesses, as well as a great philanthropist. I would note, I don't think she's here, but we have a great niece of Myra, Macy Randall, who actually is a Dean's List major in family sciences. So all of these inductees tonight really, as I said before, reflect the diversity of educational opportunities we have. We really believe you can go anywhere from one of our majors in the College of Agriculture, Food and Environment. We celebrated the 150 years of UK last year, and we like to say that our land-grant mission in the College of Agriculture is that for every one of those 150 years, we tried to get better every day, and we're still trying to get better every day. I'd also like to recognize some of our other Hall of Distinguished Alumni members. We have from the 2015 class, Bill Moody, the 2012 class, the inaugural class, David Schweitzer and Joe Wright. Let's give them a hand. We're also very pleased to have Representative Suzanne Miles from the 7th District. She represents Davis, Henderson, and Union County, some of our great agriculture counties, and she also has a family tradition of being a supporter of UK. Welcome, Representative Miles. We're also so pleased to have President Capilouto and Dr. Mary Lynn Capilouto here tonight. We always appreciate it when the president comes to our ag events, and we're very thrilled that he comes a lot, and we really appreciate all that he does. Let's give them a hand. We also have Vice President for Philanthropy, Mike Ritchie, is here. Mike is our college's best friend in so many ways, and he probably knows everyone in here, and he probably knows your grandmother and your grandfather and maybe your great-grandmother and great-grandfather. He's an encyclopedia of Kentucky ag. Let's welcome Mike. Stan Key is here, UK Alumni Director. Thanks, Stan. I'm also pretty excited about something here because both the former deans that preceded me are here tonight, Dean Orrin Little and Dean Scott Smith. Let's give them a big round of applause. I don't know if Dean Smith knows this, but Dean Little calls himself the dean twice removed. So that makes Dean Smith the dean once removed. If you want to, nobody gets real wild about accepting that title, but that's what Orrin got started. We also have a lot of my leadership team members here. Associate Deans Rick Bennett, Larry Grabeau, Jimmy Henning, Ann Vale, Director of Human Environmental Sciences, Quentin Tyler, Assistant Dean for Diversity, Richard Coffey, Chair of Animal Science. Let's please give them a round of applause. So we're looking forward to this evening and hearing more about our distinguished and wonderful inductees. Thanks to all who are here. A few years back, the parents of our tonight's inductees decided to trust UK and the College of Ag with their education. We take it seriously when parents do that, and we hope there are a lot of parents in the room who are also entrusting their kids to our educational care. So thank you all so much.
This is our fourth class of inductees into the Hall of Distinguished Alumni here in the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment. The first class was in 2012, and this is our fourth. And we have five inductees tonight, one which is posthumous, and I will begin there with Jim Kemp. Jim Kemp is a native of Pickett and received his undergraduate and graduate degrees in agriculture at the University of Kentucky and his doctorate from the University of Illinois. Kemp spent nearly 40 years teaching and advising students in UK's Department of Animal and Food Sciences, many of whom today are well recognized in their respective careers. He was instrumental in helping to establish the food science program in the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment. He also helped to initiate what is now a well-known event at the Kentucky State Fair, which is the annual Grand Champion Ham Auction. During his career, he served as president of the American Meat Science Association and was a member and chair of the Faculty Senate and served as the faculty representative on the UK Board of Trustees. He is the author of the College of Department of Animal and Food Sciences. A history book there about the animal and food sciences. And Dr. Kemp was a member of the Lions Club and was a board member of Central Kentucky Radio Eye, which used to be located on campus. And he spent many hours there volunteering, reading to the visually and physically impaired. Jim's wife is unable to be with us tonight, Helen, but Jim will be represented by their granddaughters. Our next inductee is Robert Hall, Jr. of Georgetown. We all know him as Bob, of course. He received his bachelor's degree in agriculture in 1955. Upon graduating, he served in the U.S. Army as a food inspector and held beef cattle herdsman positions in the Northeast and at UK. In 1964, he purchased a small business here in Lexington, Farmer's Feed Mill, which through product development and service has grown into a company with worldwide markets. Mr. Hall continues to serve as president of the Lexington-based company. In addition to growing a successful company, he has a history of service to agriculture in the community. He was a leader in relocating the North American International Livestock Exposition from Chicago to Louisville, and continued to serve for a number of years as a director for the exposition. Additionally, he sponsored the first honor flight from Bluegrass Airport to Washington, D.C. for Central and Eastern Kentucky World War II, Korean, and Vietnam veterans to visit the memorials dedicated to the service. Would you please congratulate and welcome Robert Hall to the stage.
I just would like to thank my family for the encouragement that they have given and the help in order that we could do what we've been able to do with the meal. It was always a big part of my parents to encourage us to try to accomplish what we desired. The honor flight that we sponsored, or helped sponsor, I think was one of the most rewarding things that we've ever done at the meal. And I know it was for me, and I think it was for the rest of the family. And I'm glad they're here with us tonight. Thank you all very much.
Our next inductee is Barbara Landrum Rice of Bellaire, Texas. She spends her days working with astronauts as a research dietitian at the Johnson Space Center. The Simpson County native graduated from UK with degrees in dietetics in 1962. She went on to receive her master's degree in nutrition at California State University. Ms. Rice directed the nutrition training program at the Los Angeles Children's Hospital, started a private practice in nutrition, consulting for children and adults, and taught at 2 universities before moving to Texas A&M, or I should say to Texas, and at NASA, I should say. I better not say that, had I? Absolutely not. Moving to Texas and working for NASA. She has worked with both U.S. and Russian crews, and her expertise has been called on many times over the years, including when NASA assisted in the rescue of the trapped Chilean miners, as nutrition was important to those miners. Ms. Rice is the author of numerous publications and has been the recipient of numerous awards. Would you please congratulate and welcome Barbara Landrum Rice.
Just need to thank a few people who've really helped all along the way. I think about the people in Simpson County. Franklin is the county seat, tiny little county down there just above Nashville, Tennessee, south of Bowling Green. I was born at a time to a farming family, parents in their middle-aged years. I was the 9th child, and they were tired by the time they got me, I think. And so really that community helped to raise me. And I can just name so many people who did so much to get me to school, 4-H club, FHA, all the things that I wanted to do. Our mother was a wonderful encourager. She always said, you can do whatever you want to do as long as you work hard. And if you fail, you pull yourself up by the bootstraps and try again. And I guess that set well for me, but it was wonderful. The county then, when it was time, I was really active in 4-H work, and I decided to apply to become an IFE, which is an acronym for International, now it's International 4-H Youth, it was Farm Youth then, Association delegate to the Republic of Panama, and a young man came to this country in exchange. It was an exchange program. And of course I had to raise a lot of funds, and I went to my friend Paul Allen, the banker, and in Simpson County Bank, and he said, "You don't worry about funds. You go out and prepare and learn Spanish and do what you need to do to get ready to go, and Simpson County will see that you get there." And I was overwhelmed. I thought, oh, this is wonderful. So that's just one of the many people along the way. My home economics teachers, the home and agricultural extension folks, many of whom are UK graduates, did a lot to help me along the way. And I then when I came to UK, it was just a natural, because I had 4 sisters that had come and majored in home economics before me, and there really wasn't ever a discussion that there would be any other place to go. And so came on scholarships, and I had limited means, always had a part-time job, but the scholarships didn't pay for everything, so my sisters, 2 of them, made me interest-free loans so that I could finish in 4 years. And one of them, Betty, is here tonight, and I'm happy for that. So I had a lot of people working with me, for me, to help me get to where I am today. I've had some wonderful experiences, especially in my career. A lot of folks, did just great things. And I remember some words that I read from Abraham Lincoln. And he said, "If I work hard and try to do my best, someday my day will come." And I felt like that had happened when I got to work for NASA. It was an experience unlike I had ever imagined that I could ever have. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. I do attribute a lot of my basic teaching, though, in nutrition was here. And it served me well to go on and to dietetics and nutrition in graduate school, and now I apply that as a research dietitian for NASA. And it has been really, really a fine experience, and I want to, in closing, invite all of you to come to visit NASA. We have a wonderful Space Center Houston that you can take a tram around. And let me tell you, it doesn't get as cold as it's been today. We are just freezing. But it's a great thing to know about. And furthermore, your taxpayer money pays for that. So we want you to know about it. And then go tell those people in Washington to give us more funds. But anyway, that's life, when you have to do the same thing. I've just heard from someone tonight in development that he spends a lot of time in Frankfurt and then in D.C. So we all have to do that. But anyway, I do thank everyone for being here and being so kind to me, especially those folks from the development office have helped me so much. And try to come to NASA if you can. It's a really, really fun time to see what's happening in microgravity. And who knows? We may get to Mars one day, and so you can have a part in that. Thank you.
Barbara told me, living in Houston, that she had tickets to the men's college basketball Final Four this year, but was disappointed her Wildcats didn't make it there. But being the true basketball fan that she is, she still attended the... Hey. Don't start a riot in the room by saying that. Our next inductee is Bonnie Tanner of Harrodsburg. Bonnie received her bachelor's degree in home economics at UK in 1963 and a master's and doctoral degrees in agricultural and extension education at the University of Maryland. During her career, she established a home economics program at Kentucky Mental Hospital, creating training for community reentry. She taught middle school students home economics. She was an extension agent and associate professor in Maryland. She joined the U.S. Department of Agriculture, where She worked in women's leadership, dietary guidelines, farm to school, and food and fitness were nationally and internationally recognized. Dr. Tanner returned to UK in 1999 and served for 5 years as Assistant Director for Family and Consumer Sciences. She then transitioned to working on special projects for the college until her retirement in 2007. During her tenure at UK, Dr. Tanner developed unique partnerships in the areas of public health, and additionally, she was the co-founder of the Kentucky Women in Agriculture organization. Would you please congratulate and welcome Bonnie Tanner.
Thank you, Jeff, the selection committee, and all my family and friends that are here tonight, as well as the honorees and their family and friends. This is a very significant award, and my heartfelt thanks to all that had any part of it. I grew up in a small Kentucky area with Breckinridge County, with several of you here tonight, with Myra, as well as myself. And it was basically in agriculture where the rest of the world was concentrating on manufacturing. Farming, homemaking, small business were symbols of comfort, but not certainty. These were a way of establishing place, and in those areas, cooperative extension was certainly a big part in that county and my life as well. By the time I was ready to go to college, I had been active in home economics and 4-H and other activities, and Miss Jane Thompson's home ec classes. Those in you in Breckinridge County remember Miss Jane. And she told me that if I majored in home economics, there were at least 70 jobs that I could go into. I don't remember what they were now, but I may have found a few of them. But they were, however, it was a very good choice for a vocation. I pursued it with passion and determination, and I never looked back. And I'm proud to say it served me well. During my career in non-conditional home economics type position, from working on the Consumer Price Index to train the data collectors to collect that data every month, to working on the staffs of 4 or 5 secretaries of agriculture, whether it was implementing a program called Food and Fitness, an everyday event that was to educate the public on what agriculture does in our community and in our world, to reinventing the school feeding programs authorization, the oversight of the dairy promotion programs, to planning the Kentucky Society's inaugural balls. But the important thing that this College of Agriculture gave me the foundation to work in all these arenas. An example of another venture that we charted new territories was when Alice Basler, my buddy, and I went to Dean Little and to Commissioner Billy Ray Smith and said, we really need to do a conference for women in agriculture. After a pause, they looked at us and said, well, I think that might be all right. And that was the beginning of the Kentucky Women in Agriculture. It started in 1999, and they have made a big impact on Kentucky agriculture. I have many mentors in my career, and one of them was Doris Tishner, who I met Doris in her food science lab where I worked to do taste panels for her irradiated strawberries and corn, and you never wanted to swallow any of it. And I met Doris again when I was on the staff of Extension at USDA, and then we met again when I had the privilege to come back home to the College of Ag, now CAFE. I love that acronym. Again, I want to thank Scott, who is Dean, and Larry Turner, who gave me the wings to develop programs such as Growing Kentucky, HEAL, Women in Agriculture, and others. This is a very significant award recognition that I've been given tonight, and I'm very thankful. But last but not least, to Jim, my partner in life and the love of my life. Thank you.
Our next inductee tonight is Myra Leigh Tobin, a native of Harned, which is in Breckinridge County. She received her bachelor's degree at UK in home economics in 1962, a master's degree in counseling psychology at Ohio State, and an MBA from New York University. Involved in many activities while in school, she became a trailblazer in the business world. She began her career with Goldman Sachs and then moved to New York-based insurance, and the New York-based insurance firm Marsh & McLennan Companies, a position that she held until retiring in 1998. Ms. Tobin has been a leader in professional and community organizations and has remained connected to her Kentucky family through the family farm. She has served as president of the UK Alumni Association and has served for 6 years on the UK Board of Trustees. She helped raise more than $2 million for the First Presbyterian Church in New York City and supported UK healthcare with the construction of the Myra Leigh Tobin Chapel in the UK hospital. Would you please congratulate and welcome Myra Leigh Tobin.
Well, I'm quite humbled to be in the company of these inductees, and I wanted to tell you, as you've heard from the others, the three women, we're the same era, and we all knew each other. So it's a happy reunion to see them, and congratulations to all of my fellow inductees. In trying to think about what I might say tonight, usually you're asked who inspired you in your life and what teacher had a big influence on you. And as you've heard from Bonnie Sue, she mentioned Miss Jane. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about Miss Jane. Miss Jane had flaming red hair, and she was the most unkempt person you might want to meet. She was a rather large woman, and when she came to school in the morning, you would have thought she had just gotten out of bed and maybe didn't comb her hair, but she got it together once she got there. But she always wore these suits, and she wore blouses that buttoned in the back. Well, she could only reach the top button. So you had to help Miss Jane get her clothes on. And then she sometimes wore house shoes to school, but she was the Imelda Margot. She had about 6 pairs of shoes under her desk, and depending on what she had found to pull out of the closet that morning, that's what she wore for the day, and she found the shoes that would go with it. So I kind of learned a little bit from Miss Jane, and my sisters now dress me, so I never worry about what to wear. They always, they're your biggest critics. But Miss Jane taught me a lot, and as Bonnie Sue, and we all knew her by Bonnie Sue, that's how she grew up. I want to tell some of the younger people in the room what it was like to go to school in a rural community and going to school in the era in which we did. First of all, the women did not take any science courses. They shuffled the men into science, or the boys, and the women all took home economics. So that's why Miss Jane was so important to all of the women in the school. And she was, in spite of how she looked, she always said, don't do what I do what I say do. And Miss Jane was full of ideas. She was a real dynamo in the school. And she was the mover and shaker that made things happen. And what I learned from Miss Jane was to set goals. She was very big on making a plan. And I happened to be president of our local FHA class, our FHA organization. And when you're in a rural community, as Bonnie Sue and I'm sure Barbara did as well, we took advantage of what was available in those rural settings, and we were very active in 4-H and in the Future Homemakers of America. And she had known how active I had been in 4-H, so she said, I think you should try out to be president of the local FHA. And after I did that, she said, I think it's time for you to be district president. And so I did that. And then you work on degrees in home economics, and like the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts and Future Farmers of America. And in the FHA at the time, it was a state homemaker degree. So she encouraged me to do that, and I did. And then she said, I think you should be state president of the FHA. Well, by that time, I agree. She had given me some good advice before, so I was a candidate and luckily was selected. But what Miss Jane did for me that year is there were a lot of these mother-daughter banquets around the state of Kentucky. And we would leave school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we had a routine. Miss Jane did the driving, I did my homework, and on the way back, we talked. And Miss Jane was well-traveled, and she told me all these places she had been. Well, my head danced with ideas, and at that time I didn't know it was my bucket list, but I guess in today's parlance it would have been my bucket list. So Miss Jane was truly the inspiration and the teacher that led me to the University of Kentucky and to major in home economics. And I have never been sorry that I did. And I live on the East Coast where parents truck their kids around to 35 schools before they apply and decide where they're going to go and can get in. I never had but one idea of where I wanted to go to school, and that was the University of Kentucky. And we had been here with 4-H state meetings and FHA state meetings. So when I got to the University of Kentucky, I was absolutely, I'd died and gone to heaven. But for some of the young people in the room, you don't realize what it was like growing up in Harned. Harned was a suburb of Hardinsburg. It was a wide spot in the road, but I want you to know for about the last 8 years, we now have a stoplight. And not only that, we have a university. The local food market is the University of Harned. And if you want to know any gossip, if you want to know how to farm or your consultants, I first go to Joe Wright, and then I go check it out at the University of Harned and see what that's like. But we didn't have cell phones in Harned when I was growing up. In fact, we were on an 8-party line. Well, there was one lady on that party line that listened to every telephone conversation. So therefore, we had to, we sometimes had a little go at her, and we would tell outrageous tales to see if we'd hear it back. But it was a totally different age. But the real support from the community and these rural organizations like 4-H and FHA really shaped our future. So she was my inspiration. And then I had a role model. And my role model was another friend. Her name was Wilma Jean Basham. Now, Wilma Jean was about 3 years older than I was, lived about a mile from where I did. And I want you to know Wilma Jean was perfect. Everything she did, she sewed the straightest seams, she canned the best products, she baked the best goods. Well, Wilma Jean taught me about competition. If there was anything I'd rather do was to take on Wilma Jean. So she taught me all about competition. So it was competition for blue ribbons at the county fair. And if I ever made a dress and I had a crooked seam, I'd say, Wilma Jean Basham wouldn't like that one. So I'd rip it out and I'd try it again till I got it as perfect as Wilma Jean would do it. So this friendship, and even though we were competitors, she was enough older than I was. She was more like a mentor and a best friend. But we really enjoyed our competitive era there together. And so those two people really had a profound influence. And particularly after I went on to school and went to New York, I always wondered what it would have been like if I had grown up in a city. Because those city kids didn't have 4-H and FHA. And then when we were growing up, there were no sports. So that's why Wilma Jean was so important. Well, I learned competition from Wilma Jean, where most people today learn it on the sports field. But these two people and these stories resonate in me in making me become the person that I have. And so I carried over this goal setting and this reaching for the stars that Miss Jane gave me and the competition from Wilma Jean when I went to New York. And life was hard in New York, and I had to figure out how to create my own community with 10 million people, and now it's 20 million people. But I had a good foundation and good life skills and a wonderful family and lots of friends, and they've always been very supportive. And that's why I think that when I went to New York, I said, I'm going to go for 2 years, and now 40-some years later, I'm still there. But my degree in home economics became very useful. It was a wonderful foundation and helped me get organized for the job I had to do. And I would say in my 28 years with Marsh & McLennan, I opened many doors for women who will go on and have even more responsibilities and fabulous careers than I did. But it was, I learned how to not only hit every wall, but to hit the ceiling, but I bounced back. They weren't going to get me down. I was as determined as anything to make my living in one of the most competitive cities in the world. So it's with the foundation that I had in a rural community and in home economics that has absolutely enriched my life. And I loved UK when I was a student, and I love UK today, and I bleed blue more than you'll ever know. And I just cannot say enough wonderful things about the education that I got at UK. And I want to go back and say that while I didn't get to take any science in high school, when I got to UK, you know what I got? a Bachelor of Science in Home Economics. I had never had any chemistry or physics or anything, any preparation like that, but I learned very quickly, and it's with that foundation that I am here tonight and am very thankful to share this evening with all of you. Thanks.
And with that, that concludes our inductions into this year's Hall of Distinguished Alumni in the UK College of Agriculture, Food and Environment. Let's give all of this year's inductees a big hand.